Will I? Hello everybody, good evening and welcome to your very own BYJU'S 9th and 10th grade channel. I'm your teacher Aishwarya, and in this class of Exam Edge, we are going to be solving top 30 most important questions from geography and economics. So I hope all of you are excited for today's class, and if you are, and if you can hear me, if you can see me clearly and everything is good to go, audio is fine for the live audience out here, quickly give me a thumbs up and let me know that we are good to go and you are able to see everything. Okay, so now as you can see, the chat is not set right in front of me right now, so it will be set on my screen soon. But up until then, students, everything is good to go. Excited? Awesome. So I'm looking down only because the chat is on my phone, and for students watching this video later, you can skip to the part where I'm taking the questions, right? Cool. So as you can all see, I see that all of you are here. All of you are excited for the class. Good evening, all of you. Good evening. Now, of course, as you can see, we'll be doing questions from geography and economics as well. Now, we are going to be covering a total of 4 chapters today. 2 chapters from geography and 2 chapters from economics. And of course, if you'd have seen, Ankita ma'am has already put up a video for political science on important questions. So when you revise that, political science will also be done and history will be coming very soon your way. And that way, you will be exam ready. So now, of course, what can you expect in our class today? I'll be giving you quick chapter mind map, right? So I will be doing quick chapter mind map where I'll tell you what are the important concepts that we have discovered or discussed, right? And we will be doing important questions. Now, how many questions are going to be there? We have a total of 30 questions. So I have 15 objective questions, right? So 15 objective questions. I have about 11 to 12 subjective, and I have a few which are going to be competency based as well. So as you can see, I am going to be covering everything today, right? And with this, of course, your ultimate preparation for geography and economics will be done and you have nothing to worry about. So not to forget, all of you, please make sure you have your textbooks open, have your notebooks ready, stationery, water bottle, and a quiet place to focus. Now, I do have 30 questions, so maybe after we do 15 questions, we will probably take a 5-minute water break and then we will continue to the rest of it. But I want to make it a point that we are quick, right? So as you can see, the class today is going to be that I hope that you've all learned the chapter. I'm not going to teach it from scratch, but rather whatever we have learned and what kind of questions will come in your half-yearly exams, right? Which is why please make sure that you pay attention. Now, how long will this class be? See, firstly, there is no mentee. So for students who may spam mentee, I will tell you now only, there is no mentee. Secondly, we do have objective questions. But at the same time, as in when we discuss objective questions, try to also give the answer and try to think of the reason behind it. There are no polls today. Today we don't have anybody to help me out with polls, which is why, like I said, today we will not have. I know mentee hasn't happened, but when we come with mentee, we will come with a big bang, right? So we have a lot of exciting things getting planned for all of you, not to worry, but up until then, you'll have to make do with this. Okay. So are we clear? This is for class 10th, right? Today I don't have map questions. Maybe we'll have a separate class. See, map-wise, for the first 2 chapters, we don't have map work to locate on the map. So if you look at your syllabus, how many of you have checked your map work syllabus? For geography, your proper map work starts from water resources. From forest and wildlife resources, you don't have any map work. Secondly, if you were to look at the first chapter, which is going to be the types of soil, that is the only map work that is there, but that is also going to be identification. That means they'll give you a map and then you have to say that, okay, from this map, which distribution does it represent? But chances of those questions coming up very less because your major map work starts from water resources where you have to locate dams. You'll have from mineral and energy resources where you have nuclear power plants. Then again from lifelines of national economy. So those are your major map work chapters, right? So at the moment I'm not discussing it because our chapters that we are covering, we don't have map work. Yes, okay. Soil is only going to come for identification, right? It's only going to come for identification. As per CBSE board exam may it will not come. Let me stress on that, because if you look at the syllabus, we'll open the syllabus also after this. If you open the syllabus, you will see that they are not asking for that, right? ठीक है, are we ready? Are we all ready? I see some parallel conversation happening. I request all of you to not have those parallel conversations. Amrita, Baki sab, please don't, right? 50 on 15 unit test. Amazing, Kumar. Session duration. Oh, that is what I came to write. So, session duration, I'd like to keep 90 minutes. So, I'd like to wind it up in 1 hour, but maybe I might take half an hour extra. But not to worry, we'll try to wind this up in under 1 hour, 1.5 hours, right? Okay. So now, of course, let's quickly recall, right? How is the Josh? Josh needs to be very high. Only then I will have high Josh, right? ठीक है. Now, of course, right, as you can see, the first chapter in geography is going to be resources and development. Now, what did we learn in this chapter? We learned in this chapter about what are resources and why resources are important, right? So, we know that resources that are there are necessary for us to carry out various processes, right? So rather to have a kind of life that we live, to carry out various activities, we need these resources that are there. Now, of course, resources can be classified in various ways based on origin, exhaustibility, ownership, status. This classification is not important, right? As per NCERT or rationalized syllabus, this is deleted. Now, of course, mainly in this particular topic, what we also learn about is how we see that there are various resources, right? And over a period of time, how there has been indiscriminate usage of resources, right? So we see that there has been indiscriminate usage of resources. That means that we are not using them widely. And of course, we know that when it comes to distribution of resources, we know that it is not uniformly distributed, but rather we know that it is unequally distributed across different parts. Like in our country, we know that there are some parts which are richly supplied with some resources, like in the case of iron and so on, while some places don't have that, right? Which is why we see that there is a need for resource planning. So what is resource planning? First, we identify. It happens in 3 steps. First, we identify where all the resources are located and we do the documentation. Then we strategically plan, and after which we will make sure that our plan aligns with the national plan, right? So this right here is going to be important. And this topic, these 3 topics I have written are short questions which you will get in your exam. So please highlight it. I mean, please star mark this. Then, of course, this chapter dealt with how land is important as a resource, right? So we know that land that is there is extremely essential, because we know that we live on land, we do various activities on land. And we know that we can divide land in various ways. We have net sown area, gross cropped area, we know land not available for cultivation, other uncultivated land, fallow lands and forests, right? So these are the broad classifications. This is important, Atulya, this is important because as per 2021 sample question paper, some questions have come, right? Yes. Now, of course, we also see that apart from this, we learnt about soil as a resource, right? So, we've learnt about soil as a resource, and we know that what is soil and how soil can be categorized. So, we have various classifications of soil, and over a period of time, we know that there has been soil erosion, right? Which is nothing but the removal of topsoil, which is why we know that there are different types of soil erosion like gully and sheet erosion, and how we can prevent soil erosion from happening. Yes? Now, of course, apart from this, one more topic that I know Ashwini reminded me, which I missed out in the flow chart, is going to be how we can use resources wisely. Now, when you talk about development of a nation, right, we know that in order for development to happen, we know that in this particular case, for development to happen, we need to also have technological advances and resources. And if we don't use them wisely, we know that if we don't use it wisely, there will be none left for my future generation. Which is why we observe that the path to sustainability is very, very important. Now, the Rio de Janeiro summit, right? Rio de Janeiro summit is necessary and it is important for us because they can ask you what was discussed, right? Or what was the agenda of meeting in the Rio de Janeiro summit. Yes? Okay. And yes, coming back. So when we come to this, we also focus upon the conservation of resources, right? How we need to prevent over exploitation from happening and how we need to conserve it. Yes? ठीक है. Now this is all about this particular chapter. There is no workbook for this particular chapter. I will be giving you the session PDF. Yes? The objectives, let me check once in my, the chat is running very fast today. I was asked about the objectives of this agenda. The objectives, see, when you talk about sustainable development ka objectives, one is to make sure that we use the resources wisely. See, I'm telling you in oversimplified words, right? But again, the idea is that when you talk about sustainability, the key principles are that we look for using resources wisely so that our future generations can also use it, right? And along with that, when we do use it, we shouldn't exploit it, but rather look for some alternative ones as well, right? And along with that, we need to know that we need to make the best of the resources that we use. Okay? Yes. Nalini, please don't spam. Yes. Kumar, if you spam, you will get timed out. Yes. So now, of course, I know there is a need for some timeouts as well. But anyway, moving on, we are going to move on to the second chapter, that is forest and wildlife resource, right? Now, forest and wildlife resources is a very simple chapter. Trust me, it is very, very simple. Because broadly, you have 3-4 topics that you need to remember because half of the chapter got deleted as per rationalization, right? So first, of course, this topic talks about biodiversity and why biodiversity is important for all of us. So it spoke about we need to know what is biodiversity, how it includes flora and fauna, and of course, why biodiversity is necessary, because we know that it maintains ecological balance, right? Then, of course, we spoke about how over a period of time there has been loss of biodiversity. So this I discussed briefly because otherwise you'll not understand what is the need for conservation strategies, right? So we know that over a period of time, especially in the case of forests, which is home to a wide range of living organisms, we know that forests have been cleared, we know that animals have been illegally hunted down and poached, and we know that this is all for our benefit. And over a period of time, this interdependency that is there, I mean, we know that because of human intervention, we know that this has affected the ecological balance, which is why we know that there is a need for conservation strategies. So here we know about the Indian Wildlife Protection Act that is there, which was, put forth by the government. And we know that this focuses on conserving living or wildlife and of course the natural habitats. How does it do that? We have discussed the principles. Then we also saw that how the government declares protected areas. So based on that, we have reserve forests, protected forests, permanent forests, and of course we have unclassed forests. Now along with this, there were initiatives taken, right? There are initiatives taken like Project Tiger and various other projects that have taken up for conserving or maintaining the balance, right? Maintaining their population. Now, of course, apart from that, there were a lot of community involved, right? So community has also been involved in conservation strategies. So the Chipko movement, then we know that Beach Bachao Andolan, then of course we know that the incident that was given to us in the district of Alwar, then of course the JFM program. These are all important topics from which you will get questions, right? Very, very important. Yes? You ask me relevant. Every time you'll ask me questions. In biology, you'll ask me geography questions. In geography, you'll ask me biology questions. Interesting. Half the chapter is deleted. Exactly. Half, I'm telling you, questions will come from these two topics. Conservation strategies, learn it very well. Learn what are sacred groves. Learn everything properly. Learn types of forests also because they can ask you 2-mark questions to differentiate. I have a recorded video, right? I have a recorded video wherein you can see that. Okay? Full one shot is available as a recorded video. Next up, we have development, right? Yes, that is there for project work, Sangeeta, consumer rights. That is for project work. I have questions based on all of that. Now, quickly moving on to mind map for economics chapters, that is development and sectors of Indian economy. Now, in development chapter, we learned 3 broad things. We learned about what is development and why we need to consider or what are the perspectives of development. So, we know that development is when we have achieved, right? When there is a goal, right? Or when there is a particular target and we have achieved that. So, that right here is what we understand as development or growth or progress, right? Now, different people have different developmental goals. Sometimes it's not always that yours and my development goal will be the same. There could be some conflict as well, or sometimes one person's development goal could be destructive for another. And we know that when we consider development, it's not just about earning material success, but it's also about the quality of life that we live. Now, how do you know that a country is undergoing development? So now, of course, we know that there are various indicators, right? So there are various indicators of development. So we have national income, which talks about the total income of the country. Now we know that this is not an ideal indicator, because when you talk about total income or national income, it just adds all the income. It does not really tell you. Now that could differ because the population in different areas differ. Then you have per capita income, which is PCI, or the average income, which gives you total income divided by the total population. Now along with that, we learned about health status and education, where we saw infant mortality rate that talks about the infant mortality rate, the literacy rate, the net attendance ratio, and provision of public facilities, right? So I took this chapter long ago, so I hope all of you remember this. Now along with this, we also saw that the best way of measuring development is going to be in the Human Development Index, right? So in the Human Development Index, what is going to be there? Per capita income, life expectancy, and average years of schooling. So like I said, today's class is a revision. In case if you have not watched the one-shot video, please go watch it, right? Very important. The HDI is a rank. The Human Development, there's a report that gets generated by the UNDP, right? So please remember this. Requesting you all not to spam. My sincere request. Moving on, we have sectors of Indian economy, right? Sectors of Indian economy, we know that, of course, when we talk about an economy growing, we know that it has a lot to do with production, how much we're able to sell, right, and how much money we're able to generate. So in all these cases, we know that the broad sectors can be categorized based on nature of production, nature of employment, and ownership of assets. Now, based on nature of production, we have sectors as primary, secondary, and tertiary sector. Now, we know that primary sector is where we extract the natural resource. Secondary is where we convert your natural into another form, right? Tertiary is basically your services. Now, in this particular topic, very important thing to know is importance of the tertiary sector, how there has been a shift over the years from primary sector to secondary sector to tertiary sector. So the shift in goals is very important for all of us. Now, of course, next up we have nature of employment. Now, based on nature of employment, we have organized and unorganized. Organized is when it is registered with the government and there are various facilities provided, while unorganized sector is basically when they are not registered, right? Then we have based on ownership of asset, which is private sector and public sector. Private sector is when an individual owns it, while public sector is when it comprises of government organizations. And here, of course, we know that we discussed about the importance of public sectors, right? So we've discussed about the importance of public sectors and why we require more of them. Yes? Yes. So when we spoke about again, seasonal, very good. Seasonal employment, disguised unemployment, those are all things that we've also learned about here. Underemployment, right? We learned about all of that. We'll go into the details of it. Yes? This chapter is very small, I know, Ashwini, but exam point of view, sectors of Indian economy and money and credit. These two chapters hold maximum weightage. So if you get these two chapters, I am telling you, you will score full in economics, right? Because globalization chapter has also been recently rationalized, which means that you have only a portion of globalization, right? The fourth chapter. And even the first chapter, normally what you end up getting is you get MCQ based questions. Long format questions for the first chapter is very rare, right? Kumar, I know you are very excited, but if you are excited, you don't spam, no? What about the others who want to write messages? I'm only seeing your message. So, now we will do the questions, everybody. Like I said, economics is easy and scoring, right? So, let me tell you one thing. It is easy and scoring, but at the same time, you need to be able to give the accurate answers and identify it. So, are we ready? for the first set of 15 questions. Now, all the questions today is going to be previous year questions, which means at some point you will get these questions. Either it be in the case of your half yearly, you will surely get a few questions that I'm about to give you if you have these chapters, or on another case, when your pre-boards are going to come, these questions will definitely come, right? It is going to be neither poll nor mentee. You'll have to give me the answer in the chat, right? Okay. Moving on to the first question. Some of these would be repeated questions, but it's okay. We can still solve them, right? First question is, which among the following pairs are correctly matched? So we have alluvial soil and Gangetic plain, black soil in the Himalayan region, arid soil in the Western Ghats, or laterite soil in the desert area. Very simple and easy question, right? I'm sure all of you will be able to give me the answer at this point. Brilliant. Brilliant, all of you. Brilliant. Very good. The correct answer is option A, right? So we know that in the Gangetic plains especially, we find the alluvial soil and they are extremely fertile. While black soil is found in the plateau region. And we know that arid soil is mainly what we find in the desert areas, right? So in this case, the correct answer is option A. Beautiful. Moving on to the second question, which is a similar kind. So if you see, you know that your paper comes in different sets, right? You have about 5 to 6 sets. Now in this case, similar questions will come slightly twisted in different sets. So next up we have which of it is correctly matched, and now it is based on characteristic. Alluvial soil has sand and silt, black soil has high salt content, arid soil has diffusion of iron and crystalline content, laterite soil is made up of lava flow. Which is correctly matched? I can see that it is a competition. Sorry about that. I can see there's a competition that is going on between A and D. See, students, alluvial soil consists of sand and silt. Yes. Laterite soil is made up of lava flows, or is black soil made up of this? We know that especially in the Deccan Trap region, I just taught your 9th graders physical features, right? We know that over a period of time, due to weathering of the igneous rocks, we know that black soil is formed, made up of lava flows, right? So here in this case, laterite soil is formed by the leaching of the rocks, right? So when there is repeated action of water on the rocks, it results in the formation of laterite soil, right? So as you can see, arid soil made diffusion of iron is not there. That is something we see in red and yellow soil. Similarly, black soil may salt content is not high. That is incorrect. So what is the correct answer? Yes, very good. Correct answer is option A. And plus, I gave you a small clue. I told you that in the examination, there will be different sets which will have different kinds of questions. It will be based on the same concept, but they will have different types of questions, right? So correct answer is option A. It has some amount of other substances also, but sand and silt is there, no? So that is the correct answer. Now we will move on to question number 3. Which among the following soil develops in an area with high temperature and rainfall? Can you tell me a soil which develops in an area with high temperature and rainfall? Is it red and yellow soil, black soil, alluvial soil, or laterite soil? I have just given you the answer for this. I've just given you the answer, so you should be able to give it to me, right? Very good, all of you, very good. The correct answer is option D, laterite. So whenever you see the word rainfall, temperature associated, you can think about the process of leaching. And then based on that, you will know that correct answer is option D. Yes? Moving on to question number 4. Like I said, today's class is going to be oriented towards solving and applying our knowledge, right? So the more you practice, the more social sciences becomes easy. Next up, what is the main reason of land degradation in states like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Odisha? Yes, what is the main function or what is the main reasons for land degradation? Now think about what is the primary or main activity we find in regions like Jharkhand, Chhattisgarh and Odisha. We know that they are rich in mineral sources. So if they are rich in mineral sources, what could be the possible causes of land degradation? It is going to be mining. Now I have a question for all of you. Now what if I changed this to Punjab, right? So in states of Punjab and Haryana, what are the major causes of land degradation? Then what will you give me the answer? If I change this to Punjab, what will you give me the answer as? Very good. It will be over irrigation. Now same thing if I make it Gujarat and Rajasthan. In the regions of Gujarat, Rajasthan region, what will you give me the answer as? What do we normally see there? Very good. Exactly. It is overgrazing. So remember these things, right? So there are various ways in which you can recall. So whenever you solve questions and practice questions, right? Think of it. If not this, then this. If this was the question, this could be the answer, right? Very good. Next up, something which has to do with memory. When was the Wildlife Protection Act implemented? When was the Wildlife Protection Act implemented? 1972, 1978, 1980 or 1985? When was it implemented? Very good, all of you, very good, right? So the Wildlife Protection Act was implemented in 1972. And what was the aim of Wildlife Protection Act? It was focused towards making sure that we are able to maintain the population of the wildlife organisms that are there, restrict or put a complete ban on hunting of certain species, and of course declare protected areas like wildlife sanctuaries and national parks. So this is the broad agenda of the Wildlife Protection Act, right? And preserve the habitat, clearly. Yes, very good. Now, of course, one more thing with Wildlife Protection Act they may ask you is eventually we know that in the case of Wildlife Protection Act, it was earlier targeted towards it was targeted towards wild animals, but over a period of time, they also started to focus on insects and other organisms as well, right? Lots of love to all of you also. Now you give me answers. This is not going to help you. You have to give me answers. Prep for half yearly is happening. Sorry, today I'm a little tired after the previous class, so I might ramble a little bit here and there. Please don't mind. So you have 4 statements given to you from which you need to identify the correct answer, right? Oh, you need to identify which among the following description is not correct. Reserve forest has reservation or includes more than half the area of forest. Protected forest has 1/3. Then you have unclassed forests which are under the government, and of course we have villagers who are involved. Then you have permanent forests which include reserved and unclassed. What is the correct answer? It is presence of iron, learning B. There's presence of iron there that gives it that color, right? It's not related to the type of soil, but it is related to iron content. I hope you're clear now. Very good. Correct answer is option D, right? So we know that reserve forest includes a large area of forest where mainly it comes under government protection, right? So we know that this right here comes under government protection. While protected forests include 1/3 of the forest which is administered by the government, and they'll make sure that it does not undergo further damage. Now, of course, unclassed forests are those which will not come under the above two. And normally we know that village communities, and of course we know that they can also be involved in certain activities in unclassed forest. While in permanent forest, what is a permanent forest? It is a inclusion, or it includes reserved plus protected, not reserved and unclassed. Can you tell me an area which is a land or a state which has a large percentage of permanent forest? A state which has a large percentage of permanent forest. I need the answer. There is one state that we need to remember. Very good, Ashwini and many others. Manju, Moksham, Ridhima. Ridhima, I have a question on that. I'll explain. Very good, Ishita. It is Madhya Pradesh, right? So Madhya Pradesh is a state which has your permanent forests. Very good. So now we are moving on to our question number 7. Arey, very proud. Question number 7 is from your this year's sample question paper. So the one I showed you was from previous sample question paper. This is from this year's. Which among the following options represent potential measures that can be taken to mitigate threats posed on tiger population and biodiversity? Banning, hunting and giving legal protection to their habitat and restricting trade, prohibiting the visit of public into forest area, establishing wildlife sanctuaries and national parks, or covering forests into reserved and protected areas. Rupinder, optional, I highly doubt. Because normally those are two different streams that come together. So that'll mainly, your history and all of that, they'll mostly go into, it'll be a different stream. It'll be in humanities stream, right? So science and humanities, I don't know if you'll be able to take it as optional. So I'm not sure, I don't think so. Another disadvantage I have is mainly I'm from South India, right? So there could be some colleges in, maybe in the northern states, which I'm not aware of. So you could be a little more specific. I could do some research and come back. I've done all my schooling and my college in South India. So that is, I'll say, a disadvantage that I have. Very good, all of you. I'm very proud. Many of you gave me the correct answer, right? Many of you gave me the correct answer. So as you can all see, we're talking about how can we mitigate. Mitigate means how can we sort of, what steps can we take in order to target the threats that are posed towards tiger population. So we need to think about what is going to help us save the tiger population. I can ban hunting, it will help me, right? I can establish protected areas like wildlife sanctuaries and national parks. I can declare the forests as reserved or protected areas because then that will come under my government and that will be administered properly. But me banning public from entering, that's not going to help in any way. If I tell public not to come, okay, they won't come. But still, there are various other factors that is not really helping in us. What do you say? It's not helping the tiger population to increase, right? Which is why in this case, correct answer is 1, 3 and 4. Ashwini, for the second same reason, I can prohibit the visit of public. This is like tourism, right? I know, do you think that by doing tourism, stopping public from entering, that is enough? That is not helping me mitigate the threats. So you need to think about what steps can I take to tackle the threats and make sure that those threats are no longer there. So that is important. PDF milega, Rupinder, milega. Moving on to question number 8. Now there's some math. So please, all of you get your calculators, right? All the options are correct. Array, option 2 in the previous question is very fika. That is my problem. It's very fika. It's neither here nor there, right? Yes. Assume there are 4 families in a locality. Monthly income is 10,000, 20,000, 30, 40. What is the average income? This will give me 1 minute to drink water. Very good, all of you. Khushbu ma'am will be so happy. I'm also very happy that you're getting it correctly. It is 25,000. What is the formula that you have used? What have we calculated here? Forget the formula. What have we calculated? We have calculated the average income, or we have calculated the per capita income, right? Per capita income is going to be total income by total population, right? Population. So when you add this, you will get 1 lakh and then you will divide it by 4. So you will get 25,000. Easy peasy. Yes? Ma'am, this is easier. I know. They're very simple maths. Now we have one more. I have given you these kind of questions long ago when I was doing practice for development, but these kind of questions is what will come in your board exam from the development chapter. So from the development chapter, you will get tabulated questions, right? So very, very important that you have practice in solving such questions. Now you have a table given to us where you have some countries, you have the gross national income, you have the life expectancy at birth, mean schooling years, and of course the final HDI rank. Now based on this, which country has the highest level of Human Development Index? So this is as per some data given in 2019. What is the answer? Now you know that higher the rank, if we were talking about which has the highest level of Human Development Index, that means that if they are higher on the rank, that means that the conditions, the living conditions are appropriate, quality of life is comparatively better, which is why in this case, because as per this data, since Sri Lanka is standing in 73rd position, right, or 73rd rank, answer is option C, Sri Lanka, right? I know, it's clearly shown in the table. That's how easy also it is going to be. When I say that, how is it C? We're talking about highest. Now this is like telling, think of it as in your class, right? You have 40 students. Now mathematically, you know that the value of 40 is greater than 1. But when you are ranking something, right? When you are ranking somebody, or when you are saying first AIR 1, All India rank 1, All India rank 2, 3. So you know that here with respect to rank, the first rank is higher than the second rank. This is not mathematical value that we are taking where you are saying ma'am 2 is greater than 1. No, we are not taking the mathematical value. We are ranking. So the lowest rank, yes Ashwini, lowest rank is greater number, which is why we know that the highest level of HDI here is going to be Sri Lanka. Yes. Now moving on to the next question, which is again there in your board exam. These are all last year questions that I have taken. Which of the following is a developmental goal for factory workers? Better wages, better technology, more working hours, more labor work. If I am a factory worker, what is going to be my development goal? You will get the PDF. I saw somebody saying C. C. If I am a factory worker, what is my goal? What will be my goal? What should I do? Think about it. Good. Answer is better wages, right? See, Aishwarya ma'am is a factory worker. Aishwarya ma'am wants what? She wants more money. No? If I make more money, I'll be very happy because with that money, I will be able to get maybe, better facilities. Now, better technology, you might think, ma'am, for factory worker, won't that be better? Now, if I were a scientist or if I were an engineer, I would want to develop better technology, right? But if I were a factory worker and there was better technology coming in, for example, if there was some machine which could do my work, I will run out of work, right? So for me, ma'am, it will make my life easy, but I could also go out of a job. Have you thought of it that way? It could also be B, but better technology per se for a factory worker, somebody who does daily wage worker, you know that if better technology comes in, their life could be easy, right? But for them, if you were to consider, so between better wage and better technology, what will you want? You tell me, right? Yes, exactly. So in this case, we're talking about if better technology comes in, then that will be better for industrialists. Yes, Arohi, because I am getting better technology. That means I don't need to pay so many people. I can save money, make more money, and then after that, well and good for me. But for a factory worker, I want to make money, right? Yes. Very late. I will reach home late today. But it's okay. Let's go on to question number 11. So you have a table given below. Pesa. You have a table given below where you have the sector, you have organized, unorganized and total. Which is the most important sector that provides maximum job to people, right? So you have primary, secondary, tertiary, and under that also you have organized and unorganized. So identify where maximum employment is there and which sector. So you have two things to cross. This is very simple. If you get table-based questions, I'm telling you, see, from this you should understand that economics is scoring. Learn that way. And again, like I said, sectors of Indian economy. So on a board perspective, see, right now you're thinking next exam, next exam, next exam. Now we are not thinking about just your next exam, but we're also thinking about boards, which is why in board examination, some short questions will come from sectors of Indian economy. I will write and give it to you. In the case of money and credit, pakka it will come. Same thing, right? I'll tell you for geography also, there are some short topics from which questions are coming over. We've studied the pattern and that's how we are able to tell you, right? So here what do we see? We see that maximum employment. I don't want total. It doesn't matter to me. I don't want total here also because that's not asked of me, right? So now in this case, what do I see? Maximum employment is given. 231 people are employed in the primary sector and it is unorganized, right? So correct answer here is option D. Very good. Now let's move on to question number 12, right? Question number 12. Which among the following is correctly matched? Think about it. Primary sector, fisherman. Secondary sector, priest. Tertiary sector, basket weaver. Quaternary sector, gardener. Just give me 1 minute. Easy peasy all of you. Easy peasy. Correct answer is option A. See, what is secondary sector? Secondary sector is mainly your manufacturing industries, right? So here a priest is not manufacturing anything, right? So priest will not fall here. Next you have basket weaver. Now basket weaver is actually manufacturing baskets. So he is using what is the basket weaver using? He is using the materials and he is using the raw materials and giving you a finished product, which is why in this case correct, this is also incorrect. Gardener will not be in primary, right? Quaternary essay they have made, quaternary and all. It's not there. Quaternary is just some extra term that they've given to you at the point, right? But gardener more or less is a service, right? If you are able to hire a gardener to maintain your gardening, if you are able to hire a gardener to maintain your garden, then that's a service you are employing, right? So that will also fall in tertiary sector. So that way we see that correct answer is option A. Now we will move on to the next question. The development of a country can be generally determined by its per capita income, its average literacy rate, its health status of the people, or all of the above. Ma'am, what about secondary sector in the previous question? Basket weaver comes in secondary sector, right? So what is a secondary sector? Where you are manufacturing products. And the basket weaver, what is he doing? He is able to manufacture it. So he'll mainly come in the secondary sector. Who is this backbencher? I understand that you are very sweet to me and that's very sweet. I appreciate that. But you also give me answers. I have not seen you give one answer so far. I need answers from you. Backbencher. You tell me your name also. See, as much as I may not take your name, my eyes are very sharp, which means I read all your names. So I know who's going wrong and I know who's making mistakes, right? Very good, all of you, very good. Now, see, development of a country. Now, again, now either you're overcomplicating or over-reading into the question. They have not specifically said like what is the only parameter, right? We know that with per capita or average income alone, we are not able to determine the development, which is why there's a need for additional factors like the health status, the life expectancy, the average literacy rate, the net attendance ratio. So we need to keep all of this in mind to see if there are healthcare facilities, educational facilities, and based on all of this, we know that in order to accurately or generally determine, right? I know the word generally is confusing, but considering that I'll agree to you if you didn't have all of the above as an option. Let's assume you had national income as an option, right? If national income was an option, then maybe you could have picked PCI, right? Maybe you could have picked that. But since all of the above is there and you know that you have an option to tell that, development can be measured in various ways, that means I will pick all in order to measure my development. Are we clear? Students who got confused here, I hope we are clear. Very good, Kumar, very good. You tell me once, I will be proud, right? This is how you measure development rate, right? This is how you measure the development rate. Now moving on to a very important question which I know many of you have got in your exams. GDP, right? GDP that is there is the total value of dash produced during a particular year. Yes? What is GDP? GDP is the gross domestic product, right? Now, of course, how do we measure the gross domestic product? How many of you have got this question in your examination? If you had this chapter, if your half yearlies are over, or if you had your unit test 2, this question would have come. And I remember, I think Ashwini telling me that even in your exam, you had this particular question that had come. I know many of you have got this question, which is why I made it a point that I give this question for all of you. GDP is the total value of final goods. If you have marked A, you will lose marks, right? You will lose marks here because it is, if you say all good, all goods means what? Are you saying final good? Is it your intermediate good? What is it? It's not clear. It can't be intermediate because your final good has not been produced, right? So again, you know that you have something called as intermediate and you have something called as final, right? Now in every sector, whether it is primary sector, secondary sector, tertiary sector, we know that there will be some final good which is going to be produced, right? Now the final good of primary sector could also be the raw material in secondary. So where will you count? So imagine if I have tomatoes and this is going to be my primary sector, right? Then I have ketchup which is there in secondary sector. Now in this case, how will I know where to count my tomatoes? Which is why for every sector we will only consider the final good, right? We will not consider any intermediate goods because it is already counted or accounted for, right? Yes. Ma'am, if it were subjective, will I get marks for A? No, you won't. I'll still cut marks. If it were me, I'll cut marks. That means board exam, they'll cut marks. See, in tertiary sector, it is more in terms of sales, right? It's not about how much you are producing, it's how much you are selling and making profit, right? So that is like, if I were a shopkeeper, how much money did I make or how much did I sell? It will be in that aspect. Question number 15. Hurry, self-study. I'll tell you. We'll finish this. Underemployment occurs when? It occurs when people don't want to work. Is it because everybody is lazy? Is it because they are working less than what they are capable of? Or is it because they are not paid for their work, right? So somebody here who was asking me disguised employment, disguised employment that was there, who was asking me this? Someone was here, no? It's not disgusted. Oh God. No, not disgusted. Disguised. I think autocorrect happened. See, seasonal unemployment is when, like you normally see with educated people, where for a brief period of time, right? So we see that for a brief period of time, we see that they are out of a job, right? They don't have a job. Now, in disguised unemployment or in this type of underemployment, what do we see is that there are more people or people are working less than what they are capable of. So if I have a small piece of land and ideally 2 people are enough to do the work, but instead one whole family of 5 is working on it. So basically 5 people are not needed to do that work and they're not generating enough income. It's as good as them being unemployed, right? Which is why we call this as underemployment or disguised unemployment. Yes? Underemployment. See, unemployed means no job. Under means they are not utilized effectively. Yes? So with this everybody, we are done. We are done with 15 questions. All of you have got 15 out of 15, right? So I know we've done 15 questions and many of you didn't even realize, right? Ha, for a few months. Seasonal is basically for a few months, right? See, sorry, I made a mistake there. My God, I got confused. Seasonal unemployment is when, like, for example, in the case of farmers, right, there will be some months where they cannot practice agriculture, right? So it's as good as when they don't have a job. That is what is seasonal. My bad, my bad. I made a mistake there. Yes. So here, can we take a 5-minute break? Shall we all take a 5-minute break? Maybe 7-8 minutes and resume at 8:30. So we'll take a short break here and we will resume at 8:30 p.m. where we will complete the remaining questions, right? So we'll take a quick water break and then we will come back. Okay? Hello everybody, we are back. Hello. Good evening all of you, good evening. Are we back? I hope you had a good break. I hope you had a good water break, right? Hello. Yes. So now we're done with the objective questions. Now we will move on to subjective questions, right? I think in half an hour we should be able to do it, right? Half an hour में आराम से हो जाएगा our subjective questions. Hi Team 7 guy, take care. If you're not feeling well, you can always watch a recorded video, right? So health is first. You all have to take care of yourself, no? Whether it, all of you, now I'm talking to everybody. If you're not feeling well, take good rest, eat good food, sleep. Rest is best. See, when I'm sick, I'm always sleeping. Normally, but I come to class also once in a while. But if I can't move at all, I sleep at home, right? Yes, okay. I have a question on organized and unorganized, which is why I'd like to take some of the questions which is there now. I know there's a lot of viral fever spreading and so I'm prone to getting sinus infections. I'll take one more minute. I'm prone to getting sinus infections, which is why every change in climate in Bangalore, I fall sick, I get cold, I have sore throat. But yeah, viral infection is on another high. So all of you, please wear masks. Please make sure you wash your hands. Drink a lot of water, right? Drinking a lot of water and hydration is necessary. So drink a lot of water and take care of yourselves, no? Very important time to, rest. Yes. ठीक. Coming back to our class, right? We are now going to move on to the subjective questions, right? So we'll move on to subjective questions and let's have a look at the first question, which is a 2-marker. How have technical and economical developments led to more consumption of resources, right? So this is a 2-mark question and it is there in your exercise. Now this right here is not a direct question, it is slightly indirect. So we're going back to our chapter on resources and development, right? Yes. Stop Moksham and Princess Diary. I know you are quoting your favorite musicians, but please, I request you all to not talk about it now. So what is it that you're going to write about here? Yes. Is it how have technical and economical development led to more consumption of resources? What is it that you will write at this point? Many of you have stopped replying now because you're like, ma'am, I don't know the answer. Is that the case? We will be doing, Sharika, we will be doing. Hello, welcome back. Ma'am, not getting. Exactly. This is an NCERT question, which means chances of this question the chances of the question coming in your exam is also high. I always tell you NCERT questions can come. Okay, look at it in this way. How have technical and economic development? That means, ma'am, I know this, you give me broad points. Is it indiscriminate resources? Ma'am, I have not understood the question. No problem, I'll explain. We are talking about how has technology and increase in increase in the economy or production led to more consumption. Now, if you think about it, if you take a case study like in the case of Africa or if you take the case study of India. Now, in both these cases, we know that in our country, these countries are very rich in resources, but it did not have a lot of technology implemented, right? So, it did not have technological advancements, but of course, we were moving into it, but at that point, we know that the colonialists or the colonial countries, they came in and with the help of the technology of the colonial countries, we were able to use these resources, right? Now, when we start using these resources and because we had appropriate technology to utilize the resource effectively, what happened? We saw that it started promoting development, right? So we saw that more services were coming into the picture, more development came into the picture, which also meant that there was more demand, right? So whether it be in the case of consuming, whether it be in the case of education, whether it be in the case of healthcare, we see that there has been an increase in the use of resources. So of course, over a period of time, we see that technology is important, and you can establish this with the help of the pointer that over a period of time, we see that when the colonial countries came, their technological development helped in exploiting our resources, right? And they were able to establish their supremacy. But main point is that advance in technical progress also meant that there is increased production, and of course, over a period of time, there was greater consumption. So we see that this has led to population of people, more number of people utilizing it. So better technology, better production, more demand, overexploited. And here you can talk about, so when you're talking about more demands, you can also talk about healthcare, you can talk about how there are more facilities, education. Those are all some extra pointers that you can add, right? So when you have all this, you will get 2 marks. Easy peasy. It is not that you did not know the answer. You all knew the answer. It is just that in social sciences, question will come with a cloak on it, right? It's like Harry Potter coming with an invisible cloak, right? Ma'am, we need more resource to make technology. Goes vice versa at this point, right? ठीक है. Anurag, what happened? What happened to you today? Moving on. Ma'am, job demand, more institution, more exploitation. But here, Team 7 guy, they've also specified on the importance of technology, right? So you'll also have to give it an angle about technological, you'll also have to talk about why technology is important, right? So that is important to know. Ma'am, we can't understand the language of the answer or language in which I am telling you. That is what I'm trying to understand. Moving on, right? So moving on, this is a very direct question, which is differentiate between reserve forest and protected forest. 2 marks, this came last year. Okay? Yes. Now you only tell me what is reserve forest. We have already discussed a question on this. We have reserve forest, we have protected forest. If you have to give me 2 marks, right? Okay, cool. Very good, all of you. Very good. I'm super proud that all of you are giving me the correct answer. Now we know that reserve forests that are there include forests that cover more than half of the India's total forest lands. They are owned and protected by the government. This point is very, very important, and they ensure that they conserve forest and wildlife resources here. Now you can give some example of states that are there, right? The states that it covers in Kerala is also there. While protected forests cover only 1/3 of India's total forest area, it is administered by the government. The forests have undergone a certain level of depletion, but it will be protected from further depletion, right? So you can give some more examples here. Now, when you are asked to differentiate, always draw a tabular column, right? Please make it a point that all of you draw a tabular column where you have reserve forest in one, protected forest in the other, and you mention the 3 points. Since it's asked only for 2 marks, you need to write only 2 points. You don't need to write the full paragraph. But I always write an extra point, like for example, in this case, the states is just an additional pointer to add on to my answer. So you will get 2 marks for this. Arey, nobody fight in the live chat. You pay attention to me. Okay, we are clear with this. No, these are very simple questions. But see, in these cases, with these questions, you will be able to learn, right? Like I always say, ma'am, well, states is much. I always write extra 1 point. Maisha, naam le liya. ठीक है? Moving on. Describe the different steps of resource planning, right? So here you will have to write the different steps of resource planning. Now, when you talk about resource planning, we know that in a country like India, right? So in a country like India, we know that the distribution of resources is not equal, but rather it is unequal and it depends upon various physical factors. Yes, which is why in such cases, we know that it is important to ensure that we plan the usage of our resource, right? So here you will have to write the 3 steps. You will get 3 marks for this. And here this is a direct question where they're just asking you to write the steps of resource planning. So first, of course, is identification, where we'll have to survey, see which state has what kind of resource, what is not there, right? So and once you do the survey, you will have to check for quantity, quality, you will have to do all the analysis. Second is planning. Once you have had all your information, Second step is developing a planning structure. So you get to see, okay, I have all these resources, I have all this technology. How can I use my technology in order to use my resources wisely, right? So making developmental plans. Now at the same time, we see that you'll also have to make sure that the resource matches with the overall development plans, right? So you will have to match the resources, or you will have to match your development plan with the overall national plan, right? So these are your 3 steps. So when you're writing it, this is how you can answer. Keywords are identification and taking stock, right? Or doing a quantitative and qualitative analysis. Planning and identifying the different technologies. Those are your keywords. Matching your resource development with the overall national development. Very good, all of you. Very good. 3 marks if you write these 3 points, right? Very, very important. Forest and wildlife resources have rationalized syllabus, for which I've made the one shot. Water resources is there. Water resources is very important. Who is telling it is deleted? You have map work, you have case based, you get 3 mark questions. So as you can see, you get a lot of questions from water resources. It is not deleted. Ma'am, do we need to underline our answer? I would prefer you underline keywords in your answer. Because if you as students, you underline the keywords, what will I understand? As a teacher, I know that you know what are the important pointers. So these are small tips that will elevate your paper presentation, right? So this right here is a small step that you can implement. You give me answer, backbencher. You give me the answer first. Then you tell all this. Next up. What are the important features of Joint Forest Management Program? Now, so far, this particular topic, right? This particular topic is, if you see, has not directly or indirectly come, right? It has not directly or indirectly come in board papers as per the PYQs that I have checked. But I have a strong feeling that for this particular year, Joint Forest Management is going to come, because your forest and wildlife resources is focusing on community and conservation topics, right? So community and conservation topics are of high focus, which is why my bet is on JFM and at least a 2 marker or 3 marker question on this. Now, when you talk about JFM, we know that Joint Forest Management was launched in 1988 in the state of Odisha. And of course, what was the intent behind this? That local communities and the forest department work hand in hand in order to conserve forest. So we know that in this case, what happens is that we see that the local communities or the villagers are actively involved in the protection and in taking care of the conservation of the forest, and in turn they are given non-timber forest products, right? So non-timber forest products includes medicinal plants, it includes maybe some other kind of we see the medicinal plants and maybe some kind of flora. These are all some examples. So when you're writing it, if it comes for 3 marks, you just need to write about how Joint Forest Management was an initiative taken by the government, which was implemented in the year 1988. And we see that communities are given the responsibility of protecting the forest, managing and conserving forest area. And in turn, they are provided with non-timber forest resources. What is the aim? Right? Why should we do this, or what is the advantage of this? Because we know that now the villagers are getting involved. We also see that it prevents, right? It protects the forest from villagers coming and invading, doing grazing or illegal activity. And at the same time, we also see that it helps the villagers with employment opportunities as well, right? So you can underline the important keywords as I have done. If it comes for 3 marks, you know what to write. Are we all clear? So quickly to revise, joint forest. Joint forest means it is a combination where we see that the villagers and the forest department are working together in order to conserve forest, right? So here what will happen? The villagers are equally involved in protecting the forest, and in turn they will get non-timber forest products. What is timber? It's basically your wood, right? They'll not get wood. So they will get non-timber. That means all your medicinal plants, certain flowers and all of that, we see that they will get from that. ठीक है? कोई नहीं, don't worry. Now this is a case-based question which has come last year, right? So this is a case-based question which has come from conservation strategies of communities. So here, as you can see, the question is about conservation strategies, and here they have taken this one particular part about how in the Sariska Tiger Reserve in Rajasthan, right, many people actually fought against mining by citing the Wildlife Protection Act. And of course, in the state in the district of Alwar, we saw that, you know, the people in themselves, they got involved and they, you know, laid down certain rules and regulations, right? So based on this, you have 3 questions that will be asked for 4 marks. Okay? First one, how are forests related with community? 1 mark. Explain the aim of Wildlife Protection Act? 1 mark. How are communities working for the protection of conservation of wildlife? Explain with example? 2 marks. Easy peasy. Very simple, you will get marks for this. How are forests related with communities? Can you tell me? How is a forest related? Like basically, when I say communities, right? Why is it that communities that are there, they are, you know, dependent on these forests, right? So that's what you need to mention about. So we know that many communities, very good, they are directly or indirectly dependent on forest resources. So we know that in this particular case, communities are related with forests because they need it for fulfilling activities, for resources. Very simple and easy, right? 1 mark you will get aaram se. Simple. Next, you have what is the aim of Wildlife Protection Act. Now, we have already discussed the aim of Wildlife Protection Act. That is to conserve the wildlife population and prevent illegal hunting from happening, making sure that poaching doesn't happen or trading of wild animals, and not just them, but preserve them in their natural habitats, right? So to ban hunting and poaching, if it is 1 mark, you need to write 1 point. I have given you the entire answer, right? Okay. ये है बच्चा, आपका ये syllabus CBSE है ना या फिर state syllabus है? You tell me. So you will get this for 1 mark. Kumar, don't spam, please. Next up, we have the 3rd point, which is how are communities working towards the protection of conservation of wildlife. Explain with example. You know what is the best part? You know what is the best part about this question? Can any of you tell me? कौन सा state बच्चा? Can you tell me? Which state board are you doing? Which state are you from? Chipko movement. ठीक है, very good. You can write about Chipko movement. Hi Shrimai. You can write about all of that, or if you think about it, it is there in the question. Exactly. You don't need to write anything else. The example, the best part is that it is there in the question. The answer is there in the question. You just need to write about it. You can write about Beach Bachao Andolan and all of that. You can do whatever you want to write. But if you want, best way, short, you will get 2 marks. Write the pointer that was given in the textbook, right? So you will aaram se get 2 marks if you mention this. Now with case-based questions, that is why most often in social sciences, if you see, case-based questions for 1 or 2 answers, the answer is already there in the case. So read the question properly. Beach bachao. Yes. Easy peasy questions, right? Very simple and easy questions. They are not too complicated, right? Now we will move on to question number 21. Question number 21 is also very simple. Different people can have different developmental goals. Support the statement with an example. This is a 2 mark question. Now for students who have normally attended my class for development, right? If you have not checked that video out, I request you to check that video out. Now, if you remember, we discussed about how different people will have different developmental goals. So what example can you take? You can do 2 professions, or can I give you an even more easier one, which is very easy to remember? Very good. Yes. Very good. So as you can see, the example of dams. You know that when you talk about development, right, we know that for people, one goal is to build dams there so that we can generate hydroelectricity, while for the people there, that is not a developmental goal, right? ठीक है बच्चा, I think that maybe you have a different state syllabus. I'll have to check the syllabus for from Kashmir, so I'll have to check it once and I'll get back to you. So there are 2 ways of approaching the answer. One way is to elaborate on conflicting goals, right? So end what is our end goal? Our end goal is to say that different people have different developmental goals, while some that are there could be conflicting, right? So you could write it in that aspect also. Yes, ma'am, identifying figures can come. It can come, right? So now as you can see, different people have different developmental goals. What might be a developmental goal for one person? We see that dams will support the development for one, is not development for the other. See, the statement is asking different people will have different developmental goals. So there are, like I said, there are two ways to approaching the question. The intent here is to say that if there is no development, or if what we consider as developmental goals, they could be individual for two different people. That could be positive, right? That is a positive sense that you are taking, that you and I want to maybe teach more kids, right? I want to teach maybe kids all over India, while your goal could be I want to get all India rank 1 in board exam. So those are two different goals because of our profession. But what we also need to do is also to make it a point that you establish that not all developmental goals are positive, right? There could be some goals which could be contradictory, which could be harmful for the other. So are we clear? You can explain this with two examples, but there are 2 points that you need to learn and write about, right? Because what if, right? हाँ, तो ये आएगा, right? So ये जरूर आएगा. So you can write about that. So understand that developmental could be material and non-materialistic goals, and we see that what could be development for one may not be developmental for the other, right? So that is something that you will have to keep in mind. So when you are writing the answer, if you phrase it well, I'm explaining both perspective to gain marks, you can. So you can say different people have different developmental goals. A developmental goal for a student would be to score good marks in the exam, while a developmental goal for an officer, for a police officer, would be to bring down the crime rate. But developmental goals are always, right? It's not always that what might be development for one will be positive for the other. Okay? So you can write this down in that manner as well. So again, 2 aspects you will have to write. You will get 2 marks, or sometimes this could come for 3 marks also. आज menti nahi hai, no menti. Are we clear with that previous question? Are we all clear? Yes? Sushil, you had some doubt. Everybody like the video today. I forgot to remind you all, but please make sure you like the video. Don't forget to hit the subscribe button also, right? Because see, in this case, no, it's a very vague question. You can't, I always tell you that for vague questions, it's always better you tackle both the aspects of it. Karthik, Sab, yeah, they're all paying attention in class. You also pay attention. Oh, Mahi, sorry. Moving on to question number 22. What is the, sorry. Why is the issue of sustainability important for development? Explain with examples. This is also a pretty simple one, because here this is in the chapter development where we've dealt with sustainable development, right? And we know that when we talk about our country developing, then we know that during development resources are consumed, and overconsumption or overexploitation of these resources can reduce how many natural resources are there for our future generation. So here you'll have to explain with the example. So here groundwater ka explanation you can give, right? So we know that, for example, even though water is a renewable resource, we know that over a period of time there is overexploitation of groundwater, no proper potable groundwater for all of us to use, which is why for the future generation this could be harmful, which is why you can give these examples, and you will be able to give one example is necessary. So sustainable development is basically the development that meets the need of the current generation without compromising it for the future generation, right? So here this is 2 marks, 2 points, right? So here you need to say that the issue of sustainability is important for development, because it requires preservation of resources for our future generations, right? So for our future generation. So whenever the term sustainable comes, put future generation. Recent studies, you can talk about how over a period of time groundwater has been exhausted. Crude oil, right? It's crude oil. 2 marks, aram se you will be able to score, right? Ma'am, so that not just time of calamity, you need water otherwise also, no? 5 marks also this can come, okay? But if it comes for 5 marks, then you will have to elaborate a little bit more. But normally when it comes to these kind of questions, no, if you see last year from minerals and energy resources, we have seen the concept of sustainable development come more, right? So that concept of energy saved is energy produced. With that aspect, you can get sustainable development questions. So this sustainable development is a very broad thing. You can write so much because it's there in like some 3-4 chapters. So yeah, idhar se udhar and all, you can pick up some points and write. It's fine. Ma'am, no ma'am, will we do 5 mark questions? So from the chapters that we have picked today, we will not get 5 mark questions. So normally your 5 mark questions, I think I have 1 or 2 from sectors, but 5 mark questions, these are all PYQs, which is why, like I say, no, PYQs I'm mainly picking from the chapters from which you will get. So these 2 chapters in economics, you will get 3 marks and 5 marks, but 5 marks mainly from, I have seen that it comes from money and credit. That's why. I don't, Venika, all of you are my favorite. Moving on to question number 23. How can employment be created or generated in India? Explain with examples. So this question right here has come for 3 marks last year, but this could come for 5 marks also. This is a question that can come for 5 marks, right? So how can we generate more employment? Now here if you see, there are various points which are given in your textbook, right? So first and foremost, we know that ways in which we can generate is to provide cheap loans, right? Cheap loans to farmers so that, you know, they will not depend on informal resources or informal sources for credit. Yes, and thereby they go into an endless loop of debt. Now another thing is generating employment in construction, right? So now we know that there is a problem of disguised unemployment where people are more in number but they don't have enough job. So give more job opportunities, right? So here of course providing daily wage workers for construction, building roads and storage facilities, right? Bringing in industries is also a point, right? Investing in basic services like transportation, communication, cold storage. Tourism is also very good. So that is basically non-farming activities like cottage industries, tourism, IT, so on. And creating jobs in healthcare and educational sector in the rural areas. And apart from that, you also know that you can bring about the point of for daily wage workers, right? How government has incorporated schemes like very good MNREGA, Manegra. Right? So we know that there is a scheme wherein daily wage workers, where the government will take the responsibility and they will make sure that within these days employment is provided, right? Yes. So within this we know that, thank you for that. MGNREGA. Yeah, I made a mistake. So now of course, as we know, right, we know that this scheme is also put into picture so that people, especially daily wage workers that are there, they are also the government gives them some kind of an opportunity to get a job, else they will take care of it, right? Yes, Manegra. Thank you for that. So now of course, see, you have 5 points here already. You have 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7 points. So as you know, this question can come for 5 marks also. And if you get it, you know how to write. So when you're writing it, these are 4 points. I have written it as per a 3 marker. So if you get it for 3 marks, you can write all the important pointers, right? So as you can see, all the important pointers you can write. Ma'am, lag ho raha hai. Okay. So as you can see, I'm very sorry about that. You can refresh and watch it later. So here, of course, 3 marks, 3 pointers you can write. For 5 marks, you can write 5 pointers, and we have discussed. Control coordination notes will be available to you by today. I will check with the team and it's going to be available. Now moving on to question number 4. We have question number 24. We have 6 more questions last for our objective, which means that only 4 more questions are left for subjective. Now all the questions that I am discussing are very important, right? Examine the rising importance of tertiary sector in India. Now, like I told you, I made it very, very clear that the question on tertiary sector is a short question. Why is it that the tertiary sector in India is increasing, right? Or why is there a rising importance? There is a whole paragraph which is dedicated to the importance, right? So if you remember in your textbook, I had made you star mark this. So now we know that over a period of time, why is there a shift in sectors? We know that there is more demand for basic services, right? Basic services like hospitals, banks, we know that there is an important or there's a rising increase for basic service. Your keyword is basic service here. Now, along with that, what do we see? We know that development of primary or secondary tech. So, when primary and secondary sectors are developing, your tertiary sector will also develop. Now, along with that, why is there a need for the basic sector? Because also there has been an overall rise in income, right? So, for people, they are making more money, which means they are demanding more services. Now, over a period of time, we also see that the information and IT sector has boomed over a period of time, right? Which is why we see that along with this, there has been a shift in the, when you talk about contribution, right? We see that there has been a shift to the tertiary sector. So again, if you're getting this for 5 marks, I have 5 points mentioned here, right? So as you can see, the sector provides basic services which are necessary. We know that they provide services like transport, which is necessary for the development of primary and secondary sector. Increasing income levels means that more people are going out, more people are watching movies, more services. Now, of course, over a past period, information technology has boomed, and we know that production of services has been rising rapidly. So if you get it for 3 marks, you can write any 3 points. Yeah, fair, you can write it for 5 marks. Yes, education comes in tertiary sector. I am a teacher, I am in tertiary sector. I am providing a service, right? Mahi, I forgot what you asked me, so you'll have to remind me, right? Are we clear with the question? Are we all clear? Yes or no? I hope we are. Yes. Tailor also service, right? So tailors, see, all of this, as you can see, is all a service that is being provided. Now, over a period of time, why did the shift happen? Because we know that earlier there was a point when people were doing only agriculture. Then after which, when the industrial revolution happened, more people moved towards industry for manufacturing. That boomed the economy. Now, when more manufacturing happened, there was more need for transportation, more need for communication and such services. So over a period of time, it's not like primary became tertiary. Primary to secondary, secondary to tertiary, right? So that is how the shift has happened. Now let's move on to the next one. Why do people prefer to work in an organized sector? Explain any 3 reasons. Ye wala question can also come for 5 marks. So this is one type of question that they'll ask. Another way is, why is organized, or differentiate between organized and unorganized sector. So they'll ask you to differentiate between organized and unorganized sector. They could ask you this question, or else another question they could ask you is, why is organized sector better than unorganized? So on and so forth, right? So we know that an organized sector is a sector wherein the companies are registered with the government. So which means that they have to follow laws that are laid by the government. Now we see that they have job security and their work is assured, and they worked for a fixed number of hours, right? Now we know that they have basic working facilities, and we know that they have benefits like paid leaves, medical allowances, provident funds, pensions, and all of that. So here you need to write any 3 to 4 benefits. It's for 3 marks. So you'll have to write any 3 to 4. You are good to go. Okay? So this is all about your benefits of working in an organized sector, right? Question number 26. Another very important question. How does the public sector contribute towards the economic development of the nation? Very, very important. How does the public sector contribute towards the economic development of the nation? Very good. Now we know that when we talk about public sector, right? Public sector includes the various companies that are administered or monitored by the government. Private means it's owned by private individuals. Now we know that the government is responsible for the overall development of the country, right? So we see that developing infrastructure, developing, industries, all of this is the responsibility of the government. So we see that we know that the public sector that is there plays a very important role in ensuring, right, that there is a need for the public sectors to grow so that the government is able to provide for various things like providing facility for healthcare, education, supporting farmers to buy food grains, right? So in all these cases, right, we know that if the private sector gets involved, then it's going to happen at a very costly affair. So we want to bring down the rate, and that is the only way in which the government, or that can happen only when the government is involved. So we see that there are some activities which the government has to support, like for example selling electricity or maintaining roads. So we know that in all these cases the government will step in order to take care of it, right? So the government bears the cost. And how will it do that? It will bear the cost by making sure that more employment gets generated in public sectors, and from that with the help of the public sectors only they are able to bring about all of this, right? So we see that private sector does it and they get personal profit. But whatever the government does, it has to repurpose it back into the country. Yes? Are we clear with this concept? I know it's a little vague, but are we clear? Are we all clear? ठीक है. Last 4 questions. These are MCQ competency based questions, right? See, you guys, tertiary, you are not a service, you are still learning. So you don't fall in any sector at this point, right? So how are we categorizing primary, secondary, tertiary? Is all contribution towards the growth of the economy, right? So as you can all see at this point, you are still learning. So that way, soon you may join the tomorrow you might be a doctor, tomorrow you might be an engineer, tomorrow you might be a an IAS officer. You could be whatever you want to be tomorrow, and I know you will do well in that, whatever you decide to do. Yes? Priyam, I missed your question, please ask me. Now see, some questions might be repetitive, but especially for resource and development, let me tell you one thing. There are questions which are repetitive because I've taken these questions from an earlier session. If you've attended that, these questions might be familiar, right? So the first question for all of you: historically, colonizing countries took advantage of India's rich resources to gain supremacy. Why was India not able to resist the exploitation? So which among the following is correct? Now these are some questions which we may have solved earlier, so this might be new to all of you. What was the reason? Is it because of lack of use of products derived from natural sources? Is it because colonizing country had superior technology? Due to lack of awareness about India's resources, or due to overutilization of resources? We are talking about historically colonizing country took advantage, right? But why is it that India was not able to resist? Is it lack of awareness? Do you really think it is lack of awareness with the fact that we didn't know that we had all these resources? Now take an example of, for example, right? Let's assume that we are talking about spices, right? We know that we've used spices for a very long time. Now the Britishers were attracted to the fact that we had all these spices. Now I'm sure that when you would have learnt about nationalism in India with Ankita Ma'am, you would have learnt about the fact that Britishers were attracted to the spices, no? But we were using spices in our cooking. It's not like spices were something that we did not do or we did not use. But you think about the fact that maybe large scale, large scale export of spices, right? If we wanted to do large scale export of spices, we maybe did not have enough technology, right? So we didn't think of it, right? So we see that we did not have that much technology to, or maybe at that point, we were not technologically advanced yet in order to export, which is why we see that due to the colonizing country's superior technology, right, we see that India was not able to resist the exploitation, because it did not come and they came and they just exploited. No, it started slow, but eventually it became an exploitation. But in the beginning, of course, it was supposed to be like a, in that way when you think about it. I'm thinking in the way of, thinking in the way of economics and not history, right? I'll not say inferior. I will never say that, because I always feel like, say, if we had our own chance, we would have had our own growth curve, right? If, say, we were not colonized, the way our country would have progressed, or maybe what we would have achieved, the trajectory would have been quite different, right? Yes. Now moving on to the next one. The inequitable distribution of access to resources has been disrupted world peace by dividing the society into dash. The haves and the have-nots, the environmentalists and the exploiters, resource-rich and poor regions, and climate change believers and climate change deniers. Swastik, it is basically a scheme which is implemented by the government, where for daily wage workers, right, who are dependent, they are seasonal. They may get some work, they may not get some work. So for them, they make it a point that for about 100 days, they'll be able to give them work, and in case if they're not able to provide, they will give them some compensation fee, right? Easy peasy, yes. The answer is option A, the haves and the have-nots. Now we'll move on to question number 9, everyone. Which of the following group of people are most likely or are likely to have the most conflicting developmental goal? Student and teacher, I hope you don't give me that as the answer. Tribal and industrialists, small farmers and large farmers, municipal corporations and road construction companies. Interested in studies? I gave you the answer, no? Easy peasy. Most conflicting developmental goal, of course, is tribals and industrialists, right? Because we know that when the industrialists come, their developmental goal is to maybe upscale infrastructure, but for tribals, it could be loss of community, loss of resources, right? So that is why the answer is option B. And that's what I said, please don't mark the answer as option A and say I'm to student and teacher. I don't agree with what you teach. Moving on to the last question for today, right? Last question. So we have a data given to us where we have the total GDP and the GDP per capita, right? That means the average that is there. Now we see that Japan has a total GDP, right, of so much. Germany has so much. Now, if you look at the per capita that is there, we see that in the case of Germany, we see that Germany has a total higher although Germany, despite having a higher income than Germany. So Japan has a higher income, but it has a lower per capita income. What is the reason? Japan has more equitable distribution of income. Germany has more rich people, right? Japan has a smaller population, or Japan has a smaller population, or Japan has a larger population. Menti will happen. Soon it will happen. Then you'll have only Menti. C. Don't look at this number. Do simple math. You do the math as if this was 1,000 rupees and this was 500 rupees. This became maybe 750, right? But this that was there. Okay, let's assume this became 400, right? While this that was there, 500 maybe, let's say this became, not 400, I have to do more, 100 and 250, right? So that is the thing that is there. Ma'am, बहुत confusing नहीं है, very simple. You had Japan's total GDP, let's say, is 1,000. And this total income is 500. But this became 100 and this became 250 when I did the average. What could be the possible reason? Is it equitable distribution or the fact that Japan has a bigger population? See, 1,000 became 100. That means if there are 10 people, then I know that it will become 100. But if 500 has to become 250, that means that only 2 people are there. Population is less. So population is necessary, right? Because when you're taking per capita or average, when you are taking the average income, right? Average income may your, what is it, total divided by total population. Greater, yes, thank you for the mathematical, this one. Greater the denominator, less or lower is the per capita, right? Easy. So Japan ka population is higher than Germany. That is the reason for the difference, right? Not, see, how can you know that one of the disadvantages of per capita income is that you will not get to know about equitable distribution. How will you know? Income disparity is not clear when it comes to per capita income, right? So that is why you cannot say this is actually a disadvantage with PCI. We don't know, no? It could be that I am earning 10,000 rupees, somebody is making only 1,000, but when you average it out, it looks like we are all earning equal, no? Yes. So with this, students, we come to the end of today's class. Hello Yash, how are you doing? I hope you're doing well. So nice to see you. ठीक है. So good question. No, we'll do more competency questions because I know that for economics, I have still not done some of the competency questions. And with that 30 question आराम से हो गया, right? Easy peasy. Now I want to ask you all, how are you feeling, right? How are you all feeling? Yes, it will come soon. I'll give you a homework question also. Can I pick a homework question from the textbook if you don't mind? Because I'm not able to think of any. So I'll pick one homework question and give it to all of you. Normally I keep it ready. You know, I'll always have the homework question ready. But today I did not get time. Okay. This will be a very basic question. But describe the Wildlife Protection Act. Simple. Very easy question I'll give you, right? ठीक है. So how are you guys feeling now after the class? Are we feeling confident? Geography and economics is scoring, no? Yes. Ha, write for 3 marks. I gave you all 2 marks, so write this for 3 marks. Yes? Are you all feeling confident that you will do well in geography? Okay, okay. Ma'am, I'm feeling great, full of enthusiasm. See, I'll always tell you, we will have more practice coming your way, but so far with the chapters that we have covered, it's simple. It is not complicated, right? It's very simple. It is easy. I understand there's a lot to remember. I will definitely agree that there's a lot to remember, but more revision. Revise, 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 and you are there. Social science, you will be able to score 100 on 100. That's my guarantee that Aram se. You put your trust in us. I'm telling you, we will take you through that milestone. And many of your seniors have scored full, complete 100 out of 100 in SST. So it is not impossible. It is definitely possible, right? So with the students, I am going to sign off, right? So please make sure that all of you hit the subscribe button on this video. If you found this helpful, do not let me know in the comments, right? I will see you all soon. Take care. Lots of love to all of you. You will have history and civics classes soon. Not to worry, right? I'll see you all soon. But up until then, take care. Lots of love and bye-bye. Good night.